10-6.
Political tell-all books like this are so sick. Publicly, I was a coward, but privately, I was actually being very brave. Yeah. New Kamala Harris writes that Biden's response to Gaza was inadequate. I had to plead with Joe to extend the same empathy he showed to the suffering of Ukrainians to the suffering of innocent Gazan civilians. Harris also writes to Biden, but he couldn't do it. While he could passionately state, I am a Zionist, his remarks about innocent Palestinians came off as inadequate or forced. Gaza was also a factor in Harris's VP deliberations. When she met with Shapiro, we talked about how to handle the attacks he confronted on Gaza and what effect it might have on the enthusiasm we were trying to build. Big protests at the convention were a major concern. Harris acknowledges becoming frustrated with left-wing Gaza protesters. The threat to withhold their vote got to me. It felt reckless. The issue was not binary, but the outcomes of this election certainly was. Why weren't they protesting at Trump rallies, I wondered. During Biden's presidency, Biden and Harris spokespeople denied the two had disagreements over Gaza. Of course, once again, neither of these folks were in any way, shape, or form different from one another with respect to Israel's endless, unlimited genocide and conquest. And that was part of the puzzle for them. Adam Johnson writes, she still thinks the issue was feigned empathy or lack thereof. For Democratic elites, everything is a PR problem. The issue was not the fact that Biden was a conspicuous racist who didn't even bother faking like he cared about Palestinians. The issue was that he acted upon this disposition with material policies. Policies Harris still, a year later, hasn't rejected. Better words would have helped exactly zero Palestinians. This was not and never was the issue. We wanted assurances and we wanted to see a change. We wanted assurances, and we wanted those assurances to be reflected in policy decisions. It's extremely telling that 1 year on, she still can't articulate a single policy critique of Biden on Gaza, nor has she issued a single public criticism of Trump on any Gaza policy. We have zero indication she thinks the issue was anything but a poorly managed PR headache. Relax, bro. What do you mean, relax, bro? I fault Kamala Harris with this current administration that we're experiencing. I fault her inability to understand the severity of the crisis. I fault her with inaction in the face of genocide because she decided to take the worst option possible, a continuation of business as usual politics at a time when there was so much discontent towards Joe Biden that she became the fucking leader of the Democratic Party as the vice president. That was a unique moment. That should have been enough for someone like Kamala Harris or anyone really with 3 working fucking brain cells to recognize, oh shit, people really don't fuck with Biden. I am going to be a different candidate. While running for president, she said she had no daylight with Biden's policy on Israel and would continue them unchanged. Indeed, based on these excerpts, it seems she only differed with Biden's rhetoric and not his policies. Harris on one hand, and they still don't understand it, by the way. They will never understand it. I think liberals refuse to understand it. They think it's all just like a minor tweaking. It's like a PR note and things will be better. While running for president, she said she had no daylight between Biden on the policies. Harris, on the one hand, says she was very influential and consequential in the White House, but on the other hand, says she had absolutely no influence over Biden on Gaza, but also repeatedly says she agreed with him 100% and would prolong Biden's policies to the letter. Only difference, based on the excerpt in this book, is she had with Biden was over his speeches being so lopsided towards Israel. Did she agree or disagree with Biden greenlighting to demolish Rafah, defund UNRWA, bomb hospitals? Doesn't say. She offered rhetorical, not policy changes. This signals a larger Democratic theme. They want to criticize the condition of Palestinians without naming the culprit. They want to pretend there's nothing the U.S. can do about it, and all the legitimacy, arms, and money we give to Israel provides us no leverage to do anything. You only consider that to be divisive if you don't care, if you just simply think this is team sports. Yeah, she called Trump a communist. Apparently,
Doug and I, my husband,
Kamala Harris on The View on election night. That night, I grieved in a way that I've not since my mother died. The pain was not at all about losing a race. I knew what it was going to mean for the country. All I could say over and over again was, my God, my God, my God. It was very difficult. These are Kamala's exact words on why she didn't break from Biden. Still, Harris defends her actions against her critics, who said she could have done more to distance herself from Biden, saying she did not want to embrace the cruelty of my opponent. She also argues that naming one specific policy difference would have created a backwards-looking rather than forward-looking conversation and would have limited the definition of the difference between us to that one thing rather than my unique perspective on a variety of issues. Oh my God. In hindsight, Harris writes she wishes she'd said that, unlike Biden, she would appoint a Republican to her candidate. Wait, she did say that. Oh, this is Pete Buttigieg. She said Pete Buttigieg is a homosexual, so I couldn't have him as my VP. Straight up. And then she's like, I didn't mean like he's gay and that's wrong. I just meant that like people are not ready for a gay man or something.
If you've had any reflection on that, or I guess I'd ask you to just elaborate on that a little bit. It's hard to hear.
Yeah.
With you running as, you're the first woman elected vice president. You're a black woman and a South Asian woman elected to that high office, very nearly elected president. To say that he couldn't be on the ticket effectively because he was gay is hard to hear.
No. That's not what I said. That he couldn't be on the ticket because he is gay.
Yeah. They came after my boy so hard, Bernard. They were like, oh, you said you can't run because you're a woman, over and over again. Okay? Over and over again. But when Kamala's like, yo, you're gay, sorry, not going to work for me. To a gay woman, by the way, is who she's saying this to, which is crazy.
Gay. My point, as I write in the book, is that I was clear that in 107 days, in one of the most hotly contested.
It's just so funny because by no means am I defending Pete Buttigieg, okay? I am not. I'm not defending Pete Buttigieg as a decent VP pick or a presidential pick, okay? I do not like Pete Buttigieg. But his sexual identity has nothing to do with that, okay? It's his worldview that I do not like. That is insane. I have time and time again responded to critics who have said Kamala lost because she's a black woman. And there are many black critics of mine who have said this as well, that like America was not ready for a black woman. America hates black people. This is true. America does hate black people, 100%. And America hates women, also 100% true. The problem is, it doesn't matter. Those are hurdles. Those are setbacks that you can overcome. And the only way to overcome those setbacks is by being an earnest communicator and also having great policies. Kamala Harris did not have great policies, and that's the reason why she ultimately lost. That's it. It isn't to, I would never in a million years say that like a gay person doesn't have a harder time winning the presidency, or a woman has a harder time winning the presidency than a man, or a black person doesn't have a harder time winning the presidency than a white person. This is all true. Okay, but these hurdles are negligible if you have great policies that keep the voting population in mind. That's it. But if you don't have those things, then yes, you will not be able to eke out a marginal victory.
Elections for president of the United States against someone like Donald Trump, who knows no floor.
Oh yeah, he would have just said Pete Buttigieg is gay, Lamau, and he would have won that way.
To be a black woman running for president of the United States, and as a vice presidential running mate, a gay man, with the stakes being so high, it made me very sad, but I also realized it would be a real risk. No matter how, I've been an advocate and an ally of the...
Look at Rachel Maddow's face.
The LGBT community my entire life. So it wasn't about yeah, right. So it wasn't about any prejudice on my part, but
that
we had such a short period of time.
Yeah. Time was running out. That's why America was just not ready for a gay man in 107 days. 108 days? Maybe then. None of this matters. But the problem is, Democrats only speak in one language, which is electability. And it's ironic because they're speaking in the language of electability as to why they make certain decisions after they fucking lost. It's like, maybe you don't know electability, okay? Let's try something different. This is what is so frustrating to me. It's like, well, you're lost. Why are we losing? Why are we listening to a loser? The problem here is just fucking say you don't agree with Pete Buttigieg's policies or something. But the reality of the matter is she unironically was afraid of Pete Buttigieg because he was gay and was afraid of Josh Shapiro because he was Jewish and also pro-Israel. Okay? That's clear from like the excerpts that I've seen. But what's so stupid about this is none of that matters. Okay? This is all negligible. It's a hurdle, sure, just like Kamala Harris being a black woman in an objectively misogynistic and objectively white supremacist country is a hurdle. But you can clear that hurdle if you actually have good policies. If you go to people and you go, listen, I'm a black woman, you don't have to say that. People can see it, right? But like, I want you to have health care. Those motherfuckers want to take away your health care. People are going to go, I don't give a shit. I want health care. That's it. That's what democracy is. That's what democracy is. Explain Mamdani. Example Mamdani. Exactly. Zohran Kwame Mamdani is a 34-year-old brown Muslim socialist. What the fuck are we talking about? I'm so glad he won the primary so I could just point to him every single fucking time to be like, really? Just like Barack Hussein Obama won by LeBron numbers. Of course, he convinced a lot of people about how progressive he actually was, but didn't follow through on that at all. But, you know, regardless, turns out presenting yourself as like a progressive that doesn't care about like, partisanship and things of that nature. We're not a blue America. We're not a red America. We are the United States of America. That kind of attitude. Yes, we can change. That type of shit works.
And the stakes were so high. I think Pete is a phenomenal.
The stakes are so high. I agree. Some people took it seriously. You guys didn't. That's the problem. That's the problem that I have with liberals. That's the problem I have with the Democratic Party. If you understood the stakes and you understood what it meant for Donald Trump to win the election, the things that I was fucking complaining about over and over again, you never addressed. They did not address masked Gestapo ripping people's families apart. I did. I said the Democrats should address this. This is devastating. This is not going to be popular with people. Turns out I was right. They were wrong. They never addressed it and they fucking lost. They actually took a right-wing position on immigration. They said, oh, we are the serious party. We are the party that's going to do real border control. Donald Trump is deeply unserious. Lol.
Public servant. And I think America is and would be ready for that. But when I had to make that decision with 2 weeks.
Bro, I'm serious. She is such a bad speaker. Fuck, man. Oh, my Lord. I think people are faking it. Or she's just tuning into a frequency I cannot understand. When I hear Kamala Harris speak, it's like fucking white noise. It is so unimaginably uncharismatic. She has such a hard time taking any issue seriously and directly answering questions.
To go, you know, and maybe I was being too cautious. You know, I'll let our friends, we should all talk about that. Maybe I was. But that's the decision I made. And I, as with everything else in the book, I'm being very candid about that.
Yeah.
With a great deal of sadness about also the fact that it might have been a risk.
This is on Mamdani.
In the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
What do you think of him and his candidacy? And what do you think of mainline Democratic shyness and agitation about the prospect that he's going to win?
Look, as far as I'm concerned, he's the Democratic nominee and he should be supported.
Do you endorse his candidacy?
I support the Democrat in the race, sure. But let me just say this.
Why does she have this much smoke for the left flank? Like, dude, you're not even running for president anymore. When you did run for president last time, you presented yourself as like this leftist candidate. Remember when everyone would yell at me and say that I'm racist for undermining Kamala Harris's track record because she was for Medicare for all? A notion she quickly dropped Maybe it was because just like these corporations that claim that they're pro-LGBT to like farm the ugliest fucking pride merch you've ever seen 1 month out of the year, they quickly drop that notion because they don't actually give a fuck about the LGBTQ population. Kamala Harris's leftism was purely aesthetic. She thought, as a bad room reader, I guess, that she could present herself as that. And then, of course, when she had any proximity to power, she quickly dropped all of that. And that made her look like a cynical pretender. And on top of that, as a cynical pretender, she also didn't have any motion or charisma to redirect the conversation back to her newfound policies.
He's not the only star. I know that, he's in New York, and I know New Yorkers think they're the center of the world, and here we are in New York having this interview.
It is the biggest city in the country.
And I love New York, as the saying goes. I really do. But, I mean, there are people like Barbara Drummond in Mobile, Alabama, Helena Moreno in New Orleans. They're all running for mayor, too, and they are stars. So I hope that we don't so over-index on New York City that we lose sight of the stars throughout our country who are right now running for mayor and many other offices, governor, and so on. So that's where I am. We got a big tent, and we got a lot of stars.
She said all mayors matter. She fucking all lives matter, the Zoran question. Not Omar Fateh, though, because he's the bad kind running, in Minneapolis. Hey, enough about New York City. What about Mobile, Alabama? Now, I mean, I don't know those other mayoral candidates, so I can't speak on them. But like I said, I have one, Omar Fateh. He's a fucking rising star. Notice how she didn't bring him up. I wonder why. Perhaps the tent is too big in one direction for these guys' liking. Wait, what did she say? The low-key funniest part is when she says, I love New York, as the saying goes, at 0:35, as though people wouldn't only utter that phrase because they saw it on a bumper sticker.
Talent
Wait,
spotter
I
in the
missed that?
Democratic Party.
Yeah.
What do you think of him and his candidacy? And what do you think of mainline Democratic shyness and agitation about the prospect that he's going to win?
Look, as far as I'm concerned, he's the Democratic nominee, and he should be supported.
Do you endorse his candidacy?
I support the Democrat in the race, sure. But let me just say this. He's not the only star. I know that, he's in New York, and I know New Yorkers think they're the center of the world, and here we are in New York having this interview.
It is the biggest city in the country.
And I love New York, as the saying goes. I really...
Concrete jungle where dreams are made of. There's nothing you can't do, as the saying goes further. Welcome to New York. Now you're in New York. New York, New York, as the saying goes. Anyway, she also had some statements for the private sector where she thought the corporate oligarchs would be the safeguards or the guardrails of democracy. Hilarious. Good attitude to have. Oh, here. This is what I wanted to... Kamala Harris calls Donald Trump a tyrant and a communist dictator.
We used to compare the strength of our democracy to communist dictators. That's what we're dealing with right now in Donald Trump. And these titans of industry are not speaking up.